The overhead diagnostic monitor strobed amber, broadcasting a localized gravimetric stress warning over the primary plotting surface. Beneath the blaring sensor, Commander Ryan Kale rested her chin on her palm, staring at the holographic projection with a resting heart rate of 60 beats per minute. The machine insisted she was suffering systemic compression failure, yet the human looked entirely bored. I am submitting this archive not as a record of battle, but as a formal confession of tactical ignorance. Please study it before your next planetary deployment. I am Peluri, Fleet Assessment Officer. The bridge of the Vindicator smelled of ozone and the sharp, alkaline tang of recycled coolant. Our navigators moved with fluid grace through the 0.6G environment, reviewing the orbital insertion protocols for the contested sector. The invasion fleet had already drafted the holding pattern orders. We accepted the delay as an unavoidable biological tax, a solved problem. Ryan Kale, our newly assigned Earth Origin advisor, leaned heavily over the holomap. Her knuckles were white against the durasteel rim. Twin rectangles of brushed steel clinked softly against her collarbone with every inhalation. I documented the heavy metal identification tags, categorizing them as a localized resistance mechanism. It was a primitive, constant physical burden designed to maintain muscle mass during long void transits. Her species clearly required artificial load-bearing equipment to function alongside us safely without deteriorating. The atmospheric density requires a shallow entry vector, I stated, adjusting the planetary model. Ground forces will deploy at grid secondary. Surface gravity is measured at 0.6 standard. We have allocated the mandatory 48-hour biological acclimation window. The tactical commander, Vess, gripped his data slate. Unacceptable. Enemy fortifications will finalize in 30. We must engage before the armor hardens. Deploying troops without skeletal acclimation guarantees a 40% casualty rate upon landing. I magnified the drop zone topology. A fractured femur in the field is a death sentence. The timeline remains. I recalculated the descent trajectory. If the ion storms shifted, you need 2 days. Kale spoke for the first time. Her voice lacked the harmonic resonance of Finasci vocal cords. It was flat and guttural. That is the physiological minimum, I replied, watching her fingers dig deeper into the console margin. She shifted her weight. Her elbow brushed a heavy tungsten stylus, knocking it off the edge of the board. Kale watched the metal cylinder fall. Her eyes tracked its descent, registering the slow, buoyant drop through the ambient air. Before it reached the deck plating, her hand snapped out, plucking the tool from the air with effortless precision. She sighed, rotating her neck until the cervical vertebrae popped audibly, then smoothed her collar. 48 hours for point 6, Kale muttered. The steel plates at her throat chimed. Are the logistical calculations flawed? I asked. Vess manipulated the holographic display, pulling the environmental readouts for the human homeworld. The projection flickered from the blue topographical map of the contested zone to a harsh, red-shifted sphere. The atmospheric pressure numbers scrolled across the glass, and the digits did not change. Then the gravimetric baseline appeared. 9.81 meters per second squared. I stared at the glowing numerals. This data is corrupted. A biological organism cannot achieve bipedal locomotion under that localized mass. The caloric requirement alone would cause internal combustion. It's not corrupted, Kale said. That is our baseline. She unclasped the metal rectangles from her neck and set them on the glass. The thin alloy clattered sharply. I assumed those were density balancers, I stated, my mandibles clicking. Designed to simulate your heavy combat load so your musculature does not atrophy here. Kale shook her head. These are identification markers. They weigh less than an ounce. I am moving slowly because if I push off this deck with my normal walking force, I will shatter my skull against your ceiling. The data severed our tactical framework, elevating the risk from a failed ground assault to an imminent species threat. If a human could accidentally breach our hull by walking at their natural cadence, what would happen when they applied kinetic force? My mind snapped to Taurus, a young Fanashi cadet stationed on the lower decks. 3 rotations ago, Taurus suffered a compound tibia fracture merely running through a 0.4 gravity simulation chamber. His bones had splintered under less than half of Earth's baseline pull. We were preparing to drop thousands of recruits like Taurus onto a battlefield where the ambient pressure would compress their lungs until they suffocated. They would face predators forged in a crushing physical prison. Vest deleted the drop coordinates. The console hummed as it purged the descent timeline entirely. Reroute all vessels. Vest ordered the navigation bridge. Establish a high-orbit holding pattern. The primary planetary invasion order dissolved instantly into absolute strategic irrelevance. I pressed my palm against the archival terminal. The biometric scanner flashed a green confirmation light. The planetary hazard designation updated from Class 4 to Class 12. Kale slipped the beaded chain over her dark hair. Outside the primary viewport, 400 dreadnoughts reversed their thrusters into the dark.